Hey TCKs and non-TCKs. Well, thank you so much for joining me on my mini-series, Short Notice. If you haven't seen it, I've got a little playlist in YouTube. You go and find it. It'll be playlist, short notice, so you can watch it. It shows before the move, after the move, transition too far, transition moderation. And what I really wanted to sort of portray for you guys is what I actually went through. And granted, it is a little bit of an extreme spectrum, but I wanted to highlight my personal experiences. If you watched Before the Move, then you saw some pretty real grief. I mean, it was really, really hard for me. And filming that one definitely resurrected some old emotions. Yeah, that was pretty real. You know, just recognizing that, okay, I am in my last couple of years of high school now. I need to move back to America to get into the American school system and get transitioned there before I hit college, university. Graduating high school was one of the hardest things for me. It kind of marked a very closed end to a chapter and started a whole new one for me. It was an incredible learning experience and an invaluable life experience. If you watched After the Move, then you saw me swing to an extreme, just holding on to the past and not allowing myself to go forward in life. And that's definitely something that I did in real life. I struggled with, you know, one foot out the door, one foot in the door, and just being caught in the doorway and I wasn't living in the present. I was very much living in the past in terms of, you know, staying up late to meet the other time zones and not connecting with people here in America, constantly wearing my jewelry, refusing to speak English all the time. You know, I really struggled with that, and it's something that I went through, yes, but I've also seen other TCKs struggle with this as well. Not always as extreme as what I went through, but on the other hand, sometimes more extreme than what I went through. So it's definitely a very real issue that I think TCKs, non-TCKs, and, you know, the parents of TCKs should really be aware of. That, you know, if your child is swinging so extreme, maybe they've got, I don't know, things that they're holding in, emotions, maybe you should try and create an atmosphere or an environment where they can feel really open to talk. I know for me, as an introvert, first of all, it's really hard for me to talk in general, so I didn't necessarily go about that in the most healthy of manners, but it was definitely a learning experience. If you watched the episode after that, then you saw me in the transition phase where I swung way too far over to the other side and I completely dropped everything Solomon Islands, and I, you know, in the skit had this kind of not so great friend group where they were possibly not influencing me to be the person that I knew myself to be. And that happened too. I definitely had to go through a phase where I had to let go of my past and accept my present and, you know, the short-term future for what it was at the time. And in my case, I just swung way, way too far than what I should have. It wasn't the healthiest again. I encourage you, if you go through this, that, you know, you're not the only one going through this where you're just swinging back and forth. That's normal. It's okay. It's also something that I want you to realize isn't necessarily the healthiest. And so, you know, whether it's your new friend group that's influencing you, whether it's, you know, the internal struggle and turmoil that you're going through, your thoughts, your emotions, you know, I get it. I was definitely there. And it was a really, really rough time for me. If you are a parent of a TCK and your TCK is going through this, again, I really just want to encourage that you try to foster as healthy an environment as possible. You know, if your kids are bilingual, you know, maintain that in the household where, you know, create kind of a safety zone for them to express their third culture. That would definitely, you know, help from my own experience in terms of helping your TCK to transition between passport culture and the other culture that he or she came from previously. And if you watched the last episode in the short notice series, then you saw moderation, where I had swung too far to one side, swung too far to the other, and I had finally sort of learned how to find that middle ground. For myself personally, it involved dropping some friend groups in favor for healthier people to be around. It involved some pretty harsh learning lessons, embarrassing moments again, and just, it wasn't just being a TCK. You know, I was definitely a teenager at the time and going through teenage rebellion, and there are a whole lot of things mixed into all of it. But that being said, A, every kid is gonna have their rebellious phase. But B, I think as third culture kids, when we are growing up and we're swinging between cultures, we just have an extra factor that I don't think our non-TCK counterparts have to deal with. You know, when you graduate high school and you go back to your passport country, you're not immediately going back to home. And so you're dealing with heartbreak. You've just lost an entire family, people group, culture, what you're familiar with, and you're suddenly placed into your passport country where, while you might be familiar with it to an extent, you may not be comfortable with it. And so you have to figure out how to balance, you know, what you grew up with, what you're in now, as long as everything else that's involved in growing up. And it's not easy. I can definitely sympathize with you on that one. It is not an easy road. But I do want you to know that you're not alone in this. There are TCKs out there everywhere. You just, you know, have to find them, connect, and, you know, accept that this third culture within you is so unique and beautiful to who you are. You know, it's a huge part of your identity. And in the miniseries, you know, you saw me swing way too heavily to Solomon Islands, and then you saw me swing way too heavily to my American side, and I wasn't letting the blend of the two cultures, you know, express who I am. I was sort of denying one side or denying the other side, and it just wasn't healthy. And you know, honestly, it took a lot for me to get where a place where I was healthy. And I know short notice only lasted a month, but in reality, transitions usually take much longer than 1 month. For me, it took about 2 years, and even then, there's still things now in 2018 that I'm still running into where I'm like, oh, yeah, that's something I'm gonna have to learn and pick up, or ooh, that's really different. I either like that or I don't like that. You know, so we're always going to have that third culture in us. We're always gonna have the experience from the exposure. We're always gonna have to be evolving with the times and, you know, be in the place that we're in. So I wanna encourage you, if you're going through transition right now, I get it. And hey, leave me some comments down below and just, I don't know, let me know how you're doing and let's chat, let's talk about this. I really want this to be a safe place for TCKs to just be able to talk about what we're going through. I know it's vulnerable. It is definitely hard to talk, but you know, create that safe space for you. And hey TCK, it's a big little world out there. Let's make it smaller.